Welcome to Planetary Gig Talk, tales of music and magic. I'm your host, Jefferson Glassy, Chief Spiritual Dude of the Planetary Gig Society, whose mission is creating unity through music. As I like to say, making connections through music with the intention of bringing peace and harmony. And today I am still in Studio One of the worldwide headquarters, the Planetary Gig Society, and I am really pleased and delighted to be able to have a conversation with a fabulous musician, and we'll tell a little bit about the story of how we got together, and I know he has some fabulous, interesting things to say. Verdell Primeaux. Verdell, so great to be seeing you on Zoom here, and I hope you're doing well. How are you?
Well, at this time, I'd just like to say greetings. Aho! Welcome to our home here, our humble abode. Doing good, doing a lot better these days. It kind of seems to get hectic as we go, you know. I assume it might be tests of faith or trials in life, what have you, you know.
It's always something. So, Verdell Primeaux, you may know the name. Two-time Grammy Award-winning singer, vocalist, and he and Johnny Mike had a number of CDs. I don't know, how many CDs have you put out, Verdell? Do you know? Can you count them all?
Together, I would say there has to be a little over 30.
30 CDs.
30 CDs. We embarked on our music journey back in pretty much close to 86. And we found each other as brothers. I am just a few months older than him. Our ideas regarding the music were identical. We had a lot of things in common at the time, and spiritual understanding, and it was like Creator brought us together, you know, and we adopted each other as brothers, and to this day, that's the way it's always been. And in his behalf, you know, I always like to say hello to everybody. Brothers doing well. Brothers doing okay these days. Primeaux and Mike, when we first started, you know, we researched the music itself, the Native American church concept, the Western understanding of the use of what we call medicine, peyote. And under that platform, or on that platform, we developed what we called a healing 2-in-1 harmony, which we were able to apply to Native American church music. We applied this to traditional music, Sundance, Sweat Lodge. We were able to use this format in a lot of variety, you know. And with that, I just thought I would say that much in Brother's behalf.
Yeah, thank you. And that's a good introduction for folks. So first of all, I will say that I somehow had one of your CDs. I think it was Sacred Path. I've had it for a long time. And I don't know whether I had other ones. I might have had them, but I think the song Awakening is the one I seem to remember, and it just has always been in my mind. And I've had this book project recently and have been learning more about Native Americans and this really the power of indigenous people and the knowledge and so many things. And this book project led me down a lot of rabbit holes like that. And there were some characters in the book, as you know, who were Native Americans, and I was really sort of looking. I thought someone from the woodland tribes in the East Coast would appear, but I was striking out. I had all the other characters for the book, and I'll tell people about that later. This book, an audio book, but I wasn't really finding the right person to do this part. And one day I was in my car and I was listening to sort of a, I guess, Pandora playlist of Native American tunes and chanting and flute music. And this song came on and I said, oh, Verdell. Sort of like I knew you, or it was meant to be, or something. And I reached out on Facebook and there you were. And now I've been so grateful that you and your wife, Perline, and daughter Florinda all have done parts for this audiobook. And it's in production now, and I couldn't be happier, but it was almost like the musical spirits somehow put us together, and I've learned so much from you, and really enjoying working with you on the project. So thanks for that. It's been kind of a spiritual journey just to get to know you and work with you.
It is our pleasure, and I felt this coming at some point. I told my family, I said, we need to be ready. I said, not knowing that you were going to come with the book and you were going to come with I would call it a refreshing eye opener, and you took away a lot of our, we had a lot of uncertainty about, what's going on around us, and you took a lot away, with this project, and I totally see, where we're going with this, and the music itself. I always believe that it has a spirit.
Yes,
and that this music will bring people together, and these people like us, I guess we're instruments, we're being used to channel the healing power of whatever, higher power, creator, Lord Savior, in whatever way we look at this, that this music was able to bridge different ethnic gaps, religions. If you all look at it, it's all the same, It's all the same, Worldwide, we're all indigenous people of our own lands, and we're all indigenous people of our own stars, the cosmos. So this music, it has a universal outreach. It has a purpose. We try to take things into our hands a lot of day and times, and things don't work the way we want it. So we have to take a step back and let this prayer and the music do what it has to do.
Yeah, it's so beautiful and such a wonderful attitude and perspective. So I know you said to me that music is so very important for Native Americans, but could you maybe go back in time for you, growing up? How did music come into your life? Was it always there? Your parents did music, and what was your sort of musical trajectory from when you first got into music and eventually met Mike and all the other things that you've done? I mean, what sort of, do you have some first memories of music or
I would like to share this, with the audience and with you, of course, that this here is what I call a healing testimony, or the healing power of, our native medicines, our roots, even our plant life, And it was a time in 1966, October 11, when I was born. My dad and my mom, they always tell me that. They said, you should have been at an age where you're sitting up, by yourself, crawling, eating. But we found out, that you had what they call yellow meningitis, spinal meningitis, both at the same time.
Whoa.
And they tell me that, I had 2 spinal taps.
Whoa.
And the doctors, gave me back to my parents and told them that I wasn't going to make it. Get ready, put your son away, I guess they told my parents. My dad said he was fresh out of the military. Son, he said, I had my own business, he said. But because of you and I wanted the best for you, he said, I put a lot of finance into you, he said. And in the end, that's what they told me, he said. And your mother wouldn't let you go. You were her firstborn. She held on to you. And son, he said, it was to the point where you was changing color. You wasn't breathing, but she wouldn't let you go. It bothered me, son, he said. I wanted this healing medicine for you, what they talk about. He said, I didn't know where it was. I didn't know where to get it, but I heard it was in Texas. He said in 1960s, he said, this medicine was outlawed by the U.S. government. He said, we were, a lot of our elders went to jail just for using this and singing the songs, they told me. But he said, I wanted that for you. So I made my way down there. He said, in those days, he said, I found myself in a place where I was alone. He said, first time, he said, I felt sad. I felt for you, he said. And little ways near me, he said, there were some boys. They too were Native American. They took me in. He said, my bus ticket, what I had, took me as far as Laredo, he said. Laredo, Texas. I needed to get to Miranda City. So they took me, he said. And he said, I thought they were playing tricks, son. He said, I thought this medicine grew in a really nice place. But when we got out there, he said, it was desert. He said, there were spiders, cactus. I couldn't see it, son. He said, they told me you have to use tobacco and pray. He said, that was the first time in all this that happened to you. He said, I thought about Creator. He said, I let it out. He said, all the hurt, all the uncertainty, he said, I prayed to my heart's content. He said, when I got through and opened my eyes, the peyote was sparkling all over like diamonds, he said. In the morning, he said, we cut as much as we could carry, he said, and we left. He said, we got to Shiprock, New Mexico, son. They had a teepee set up. We took our peyote in there. They prayed for it. He said, they prayed for you too. He said, I didn't even know these people. He said, but they took me in. He said, they gave me 50 Mexican dry. They wanted you to get well. Maybe someday we will meet him. That's what they told my dad. He said, I made it home. He said, with all that medicine. And we had a doctor meeting for you, son. He said, your grandpa, Newland Dion Sr., he said, he talked to you. He said, I could pray for you, sing for you, cry for you, but you have to meet me halfway, grandson. And with that, they started feeding me medicine, started putting it down my mouth. I guess somewhere I started gagging, choking. And that meeting went till morning and they finished. He said, son, he said, we were so medicined up. I forgot about you, he goes. He said, we went in there and we couldn't kitchen. He said, we made coffee. We were cooking for our guests. All of a sudden, he said, we heard something. We ran back in there and you were sitting up, son. You were hitting that drum with your left hand. We had the peyote drum still tied. He said, we all rejoice. Whoever that higher power is, he heard us. And maybe he didn't hear me, but he heard somebody. He said, son, he said, that's you're my living testimony for the healing power of this peyote. That's what he told me. But in that time, I remember being in a place where there was a lot of trees, pretty grass, lots of flowers, birds, a lot of calm water. And I remember running through a tunnel with a shield and this music, the drum, the gourd, the rattle was with me. I remember that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's an amazing story. So, I mean, the plant medicine is very powerful, and it sounds like it, saved your life and almost just introduced you right there to the music.
That following Monday, my dad took me back, him and my mom. They took me back to the same doctors that said I wasn't going to make it, and they were astonished. They wanted to know what happened. What did you do to him? Tell us. And my dad told them at the time that we're still Native Americans, he said, you know. And not too long after that, I was 4 years old when I first started my interest in music. By the time I was 5 and 6, I had my voice pitched. And by the time I was into junior high, I recorded my first 4 albums with my dad and my family.
Wow. So you started
I'm
singing.
a third generation. Yes, third generation recording artist myself.
Wow. So your father was recorded this kind of music too. What
Yes.
How would you describe the music that he played and that you were singing when you were young?
My dad and my uncles of the Yankton Sioux, they were like role models. They kind of pointed me the right direction. If they hadn't said their prayers for me when I was small, sick with this meningitis, yellow meningitis, I don't think I probably would have found the musical path. But through their prayers and their concern, and they kind of more or less put me on that platform, you know. And all through my life, through school, elementary, junior high, I took up band. You know, for some reason, I was really interested in music, and I had some real nice music teachers, you know. And when we were invited to tour Canyon Record Studio, I went home and I asked my elders, would it be good? Would it be okay to do this? Some of them, they said, no, maybe you shouldn't. But my grandmother, my dad's side of the family, my grandmother, she's the one that told me, she said, go ahead, grandson. She said, you know, you doing that, she said, would share a message with the world. She said, and don't worry, she said, our prayers and our songs were already shared with the world way before your time. She was talking about the Wild Buffalo Bill show. A lot of our relatives went to Europe. Some of them stayed over there, got married. Some of them came home, she said. And some of them didn't make it back, she said. She said, so you doing this, you're just the second, you know, the second voice for the people. So that's how I started, you know, relatives, my friends, my brothers and sisters. That's how I started.
And so, I mean, I guess it's easy for me to say, so it's Native American music, but how do you describe it? What does it entail? Singing and drums and flute and what are the messages from the music? You did say it's so important. Music is so important to Native Americans, and you know, we don't necessarily think about that other than you hear flute music or something like that. But you know, I don't have a background or knowledge of the history of how it was important in the daily life of indigenous people here in the Americas.
Yes, we understand that in this life we travel, you know, we're going somewhere. We're coming from somewhere. You know, we're here because of Creator. And he told us that he's going to come again, which is why, you know, my people, the Lakota Sioux, we always look towards the heavens. Anytime our children's born, we look to the heavens. You know? And the thing about this music here, you know, what it is a prayer. Anything the Native American does is a prayer. It could be a prayer for your children. It could be a prayer for your health. It could be a prayer for somebody that you love. And if you want this prayer to have power, you sing it in the form of a song. That's what the people say.
The prayer.
Creator, yes, Creator, he likes harmony. He likes beauty. So when we use the eagle bone or the flute, that's calling the positive spirits. the eagle people, the thunder people, the lightning people. They're the ones that can penetrate all negativity. Through them, they control, healing power, the lightning, the thunder. And then we use the rattle, the shakers, because we want to attract the positive spirits. In the spirit world, there are three kinds. There's the good, and there's one that just don't care, and there's the positive spirits. We use these shakers to summon the positive spirits. And we use the drum. It could be the powwow drum, or the ceremonial peyote drum, or even the round dance drum, social drum. We use that to represent the heartbeat that's going to give this prayer, the rattle, and the shakers, the flute. It's going to bring life into this prayer, and it's going to give it power to move, and it's going to go where it needs to go. That's our belief.
Well, it is so powerful. I mean, as I mentioned, I've been really listening a lot to different sorts of Native American music and chanting and flute music and that sort of thing, and trying to learn what I can about it. And it really is powerful. It just goes right to your heart, and some of the music that I haven't heard all 30 albums of your music, but I have been listening to even more recently. And our friend Michael, who was on the book project, audiobook project, when he met you online when we were having some conversations, he said, is it In This Earth? Is that the name of that album?
On This Earth.
On This Earth.
On This Earth. Yes.
On This Earth. He said, Verdell, whenever I desperately need music and to feel better and some healing from music, I go for that album. And it is, it's very powerful. And so you got to, you met Mike, and then I guess that sort of was your more professional career about that time when you met him, and you recorded albums, and your purpose was basically sending this prayer out through music. Is that it? And tell us more about that.
Yes, we both came from backgrounds, broken childhood, and we put our ideas together, and we were looking at our children, and we believe that we're the generation that's going to fix things. We're the generation, So that's how the healing music began. Healing the mind, healing the spirit, healing the physical, healing, at a time when there's a need for understanding. There was a lot of, in my parents' time, there was a lot of alcoholism, Native Americans, they get a hold of this, they don't know how to use it, they don't know how to control it. And us children, the children were the ones that, see, that was kind of the whole thing, I worked as a non-commissioned police officer. I've worked as a substance abuse counselor for the Native American people. And I saw, the need for healing. And a lot of it, is for our parents, and for whoever else. There's the homeless and a lot of people out there, not only Native Americans, but everybody, the four colors of man. We are all one.
Yes.
So that is how we embarked on this earth. We wanted to expand, we wanted to bridge that gap and say, hey, I'll bring my shaker and you have your drum, and let's together sit down and work together. So, with Robbie, Bob Dylan, Jim Wilson, and this is how we were able to do a lot of these projects, take the heya heya, the hene hene, take it to another level, and it was really awesome. You know, the possibilities, the sonic possibilities were endless. You know.
Oh wow, it is so powerful. And you were talking about Robbie Robertson there with the band, I think.
Yes, Robbie Robertson, the band.
What about the? Is it called the Native American Church? I'm sorry if I forget the name, the exact name of it. The Peyote Church that you're involved with. Could you talk about that a little bit? Yeah, I don't know that much about it.
Okay. The Native American Church is a federally recognized church. All Native Americans throughout the United States, Canada, and even parts of Mexico are joined together under the Native American Freedom Religious Act, which was established in the early 1990s. And through that, we are able to use the medicine peyote, and even there, we have our officers, officials that monitor the use, the conduct of our participants, our members. We observe membership, and we have our own church houses where I come from, and then we have our own burial grounds too. Our Native American Church, state of South Dakota, is based upon 4 principles: marriage, confirmation, baptism, and burial, forgiveness of sin. So, you know, to have all this, we needed to establish, which had happened at our state capitals level, Arizona State Capitol, South Dakota State Capitol. All tribes, they have charters protecting us, that we will not be jeopardized through the use, and then traveling with our paraphernalia as well, traveling from one state to the next. We have membership for our protection to use the medicine. That way, you know, that it wouldn't fall into the wrong hands and it wouldn't become something that we, you know. So inside of that, there's a Native American church community, which everyone seems to be interlinked. You know, throughout the United States, there's our national president, our national vice president, and they're all different tribes. They come from different tribes. So, you know, it's a really well organized church foundation.
And what is the role of I have not been experienced peyote, but what is the sort of the role of it? What does peyote do, and how is it tied into music? If I assume it's tied into music in a way too.
Yes, like as I said, you know, medicine, what it does is it opens your mind's eye. A lot of times, you know, we don't understand, you know, some they don't understand this medicine. It'll be like giving a child a loaded M16.
Ooh.
They can hurt themselves, you know, which is why, you know, we have to have these things in place. And through the use of this medicine, the drum and the gourd and the sound of the music, it works together with the spirit of the prayer, our items, you know, the eagle feathers and the cedar and the sweetgrass, the incense that we burn, you know, and purifying our loved ones throughout the night, fanning them off using our feathers, fanning them off their aura, you know, fixing things, you know, and we're like that, you know. We're Native Americans. We go into our prayer setting. We don't sit for 1, 2, 3 hours. We want to get the Creator's attention, so we go all out. You know, we sit up at night. You know, we sit up lengthy time. You know, we give Him all the praise and glory. You know, so this medicine and this Native American church, That's kind of the backbone, if you will.
Wow, it sounds really, really powerful, and I want to learn more. So, we've talked about the amazing power of music in your life and bringing it to people and how influential it is on people's lives. Do you have other thoughts about, boy, we sure do have some problems out here in this world. What is your perspective on, what we can do now, maybe all together or each one of us or whatever to help, to see if we can use music to help make a better world or make things easier or more loving for people?
Well, now's the time. Now's the time.
That's right.
Now's the time that I wanted to share this, that I think the only way that we can bring people together, bring them all together at one time, would to release not only a book, but perhaps a movie.
A movie about this. Yeah.
About the spirit of the music. And I've had people ask me, would it be possible? With me, anything is possible.
Yeah, I know. You're quite an amazing man, Verdell. I really appreciate knowing you and being sort of blessed by, what you've done in your life and what you're bringing to my life. So we'll have to work on that project. We've got our audiobook project, but we'll have more projects.
Of course. This is only the beginning.
It's only the beginning. That sounds good. Anything else you want to add that I might not have asked about? You've been telling us some wonderful stories and giving us some fabulous insight. I think that the story of Native American music is one that can really be helpful for people, and more people should know about it.
Right. I only have to add this. Life is what you make of it. What you are, what I am, what we all are is God's gift to us. And what we make of ourselves is our gift to Him.
Well, thank you. And thank you so much for your music. So for anybody listening out there, Verdell, I'm just going to spell it so you can check it out online. Verdell, Primeaux, Primeaux. And there's on Apple Music, wherever you go. I mean, you can listen to this music. And Primeaux and Mike, fabulous. Oh, I did want to ask. I know it seems like we're wrapping this up, but you mentioned 2-in-1 harmony. Could you explain that before we go? I wasn't sure what that means or what that means to you.
What it is two voices in one pattern, like a soprano and an alto together. Yeah. Or if you ever heard the Everly Brothers.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it's just you could channel it up. It'll sound a whole, like if you had like a quartet, 3-4 guys, even a lady's voice. My wife, my daughters, when we get together, we have a really nice session. So everybody has their own voice.
Yes.
Everybody is blessed with their own voice. It's a blessing.
It's so special. Well, I've been threatening to come out there and visit, and maybe we can do some singing and playing together. That would be awesome.
Waiting on you, brother.
All right. Okay, everyone. For the amazing 2-time Grammy Award winner, Verdell Primeaux, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today.
Aho. Hoka.
Aho. You've been listening to Planetary Gig Talk, Tales of Music and Magic I'm your host, Jefferson Glassy, Chief Spiritual Dude of the Planetary Gig Society. We talk with musicians and others about the power of music and how we can use music to help create a better world. Please check out our website, www.planetarygigs.org, for information about some of the organizations promoting music and musicians, resources about the power of music, books, movies, articles, including new research on music and the brain. We welcome your support. The Planetary Gig Society is a Section 501c3 charitable organization, and you can donate on the website. You also can receive a free email signature block demonstrating your support for Planetary Gig Society. Please follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Planetary Gigs. And we want to thank fabulous musician and teacher Eric Weinberg of Little Eric Studios for the Planetary Gig Talk music titled Chill Kid, It's Saul. So please check out Planetary Gig Talk on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. Subscribe and hear all the upcoming episodes. Thanks very much.